We're now on to match 6. We're coming in 4-1, so we've just picked up our first loss. So look, we're still looking pretty good overall. We're still close to being in the top 8. We will have to perform really well from here. I think like probably one more loss at any point during the day takes us out of contention for... Well, look, it depends on when we pick up the loss. One more loss very late in the day would leave us in contention for top 8. A loss earlier than maybe the last couple of rounds would probably knock us out and leave us with maybe a chance at top 16. We're snapping this hand off. This hand is great. We have Ancestral, we have Flusterstorm to protect the Ancestral, we have a Doomsday, we have a Vampiric Tutor to get like a Lotus, or if we draw a Ritual, maybe a Gush. So we've got a fair bit of gas. Doomsday to actually combo, a second way to combo in that we have Oracle in hand. So like Vamp can even just grab like a Demonic Consultation. And opponent's on a Bazaar deck, so this hand is actually probably okay against a Bazaar deck, just given how much action it has. But they've binned a Vengevine already, so if they drop another threat into play, yeah, so now we're under a lot of pressure. Squee is going to let them keep their Bazaar of Baghdad card neutral. And all they have to do is probably just hold up a full enough grip of counter magic. Now, second Doomsday was not a good draw. So against these... so what we're playing against is Hollowvine. So Hollowvine is going to use Bazaar to basically keep their hand... Bazaar and Squee to keep their hand stacked with counter magic. And they're going to do that while drawing lots of cards to deploy lots of threats. All their threats are pretty much free, so they can just keep sitting behind their one Bazaar, doing whatever they want, and just keep jamming from there. Second Bazaar activation means we could actually be dead this turn. So they get to chip in for another 9. It's not over yet. And we're going to have to see what Ancestral draws us. If they have a Force of Will, it's more or less game over. And they have the Force. So the reason the Force of Will is game over there is I just don't think we can draw enough. Neither of these are sufficient for us to win the game, and I don't think there's any other card we could rip off the top. So for here, we're going on a graveyard plan, which is that we want our ley lines and our tabernacles to keep their graveyard down and their threats off the board. We're going to board out a Necro. Necro is just not very good when you're under pressure. We're going to board out a Street Wraith. Necro is not very good when your life total is under consistent pressure from an aggro creature-based aggro deck. We'll cut a Street Wraith as we probably can't cycle many Wraiths anyway. We'll probably consider cutting... I feel like Mystic Sanctuary is a worthwhile cut. Force of Negation is definitely a worthwhile cut. Mystical Dispute I'm torn on. as it's still a counterspell that's designed to kind of let us ram a counterspell through what they're doing. We have one more cut to make. Yeah, Merchant Scroll seems like a reasonable cut here. And I wonder if Flusterstorm might not just be a better card than Peak, retrospectively. But Peak does let us see the hand and figure out what we need to play around. So there are merits to both. Once again, we're keeping the Vamp Tutor because they're so fast. We want to be able to kind of rip through what they're doing. Or like rip through so that we're playing as fast as we can so that we can beat what they're doing. The deck that we're playing against has kind of two kind of main draws that you typically expect. One is going to be the Squee control draw, the Squee based draws, and the other are the aggro draws. So if they have a super aggro draw, that's usually, it's very threatening in terms of how fast they come out, but I think we can often combo fast enough to beat that in a lot of situations. Whereas the Squee draws they're just typically a lot more difficult. We have to fight through a lot more. And this hand's great again. So we have a counterspell, we have a bunch of draw spells. And opponent's on a Squee draw. So they're not getting their aggro on at the moment, which is kind of actually good for us. It just gives us a lot of time to try and sculpt something. And so we're just going to try and do our best to kind of start cutting through our opponent's counter magic. And Probe's a nice draw, as is Lotus. So Lotus might mean we can actually go off this turn. Opponent doesn't have a lot going on. So we kind of have to hope their next couple of Bizarre activations are not kind to them. Doomsday's great. And I think we want to resolve the Doomsday now. So the other thing that this deck does is they play a bunch of Wastelands. We're somewhat insulated to their Wastelands. Somewhat insulated against their Wastelands just by the strength of the fact that we have fundamentally 3 lands in hand. We're going to have to put a land in our pile for the Polluted Delta, I think. But we're in a really strong position. So I think we just want like Ancestral Oracle, Lotus land. That seems like our best hand. Daze is also reasonable, as it's just another free counterspell. And we're taking the Lotus for now. So the reason to take the Lotus is we get to go something like Preordain. So we'll draw Lotus, Preordain, draw Ancestral. Lotus then lets us Ancestral with Flusterstorm back up. Make a land drop. And we now have Dazed Fluster back up. Opponent's drawing a lot of cards now. And the fact that they're not dropping any creatures is actually a little bit scary for us here. Force of Negation, and we will Flusterstorm that. An opponent forces again. So they're now out of cards. So we're still actually in quite good shape. We don't really want the Ancestral anymore. So bottom Ancestral, go down to 3 cards. Draw Daze. We're on 2 cards. Now opponent can pay for Daze with their current hands. But we kind of just need to hope that they don't find the second force from here. The fact that they drew double counterspell was pretty much they're out at this point. And we're still looking really good. Like, even with the Wasteland right now, we're actually ahead. Opponent has... So they're going to go to 3 cards. They'll activate a Bazaar. They're going to go to 2 cards? Or 3 cards, I guess. No, 2 cards. Okay. So there's only 1 card I think we can't beat from here, and it's Wasteland. Actually, we could beat a Wasteland from here. Okay, another Force of Will. So we've now seen 2 of their Force of Wills, but we've only seen 1 Wasteland. Once again, Wasteland is the only problem card for us. That I think is actually likely for them to hit. They're not likely to have a second Force, and yeah, they hit a second Wasteland, so unfortunately we lose this one.